Hi, this is my game against H.Barber in the Australian Corespondence Championship. I was black. This turned out to be the longest and most difficult of my games. E4, Caro-Kann defence. Main line, Caro-Kann. He took, I took, he played C4, so this is the Panov attack. I defended my pawn. He played an unusual line called the Gudnarim. It does lose the tempo, however it does gain space and is dangerous. So, a number of ways to meet this, but immediately I chose to hit at the base of the chain. You could take the pawn here, but got the knight out. Now, I had a book on this with by Raymond Keane, but I came up with a line that wasn't in the book, which seemed to work pretty well. So I took the pawn. So immediately I hit the queen. So if he moves the queen away, this pawn's going to become exposed. So he pinned my knight. Now, rather than playing bishop d7, my idea was just to develop the bishop and castle and unpin. So moved the bishop, got the knight out. I castled, so I'm hitting his queen. He swapped off. What that does is it strengthens my centre. I made a pawn capture towards the centre. Gives me the two bishops, and it gives me an open b file and this diagonal for the bishop. So he moved his knight in a bit ambitious, so he's going for the this pawn. So I played a move which was defending and attacking at the same time, so aggressive defence if you like. So they're important sort of moves. Moves that do lots of things, tend to be valuable. So I defend the pawn, but I'm already getting ready to strike down the e file. So he developed the bishop, so he gives his pawn here another defender. So now, but turns out he couldn't really hold the pawn in this position, so I took it. He took, I took. Now it's he can take the pawn here, but I do have a strong attack starting with d4. It's very complicated, but black gets the advantage. So he stopped the pawn going up. So he moved the pawn up to stop my knight getting in here. If he instead, say for example, he castles, so if he castles, oops, oh, the queen's on the wrong square for some reason. If he castles, then, oh no, sorry, we've got the wrong position here. What's going on? If in this position white castles, I get a strong attack by threatening mate on this square. If he moves his pawn up here, I can threaten mate yet again. He pushes this up, and he's badly weakened the white king side, and I can continue to attack his king. Okay, so that didn't happen. So instead he played h3. Okay, so now I'm pawn up. So talk the bishop. So he daren't take this pawn here, because I'm going to fork these two pieces. So instead he castled. I hit the queen. The queen moved. Now it's a little bit difficult because bishop of the colours, particularly if a few more pieces come off, he may be able to hold the position even though he's a pawn down. And his black bishop is controlling the squares in front of these two pawns. So I defended the queen, and the idea was to be able to threaten pawn to d4 so the queen could be retaken with the pawn. The knight went in, taking the weak square on c5. So I pushed, he moved the bishop, swapped the queens, pushed the other ones up, so I've managed to get the pawns on the opposite color to my bishop. He hit the pawn, I defend the pawn, he moved the rook over, I move the rook over, rook up, king up, pawn up, Now G5, F3. Now that was an error. So I'm moving the king up to the middle. It allows him to free his position. It's not easy to make progress, but I can gain more space on the king side with pawn H5. So, believe it or not, I rushed that move because my opponent was very short of time. He didn't have many days left. I played that move a bit too quickly. So there's a good saying in correspondence chess: if you're not happy with a move, don't post it. So it breaks up my chain of pawns. So I took, swap rooks, took the pawn. Now this one's very weak. I still managed to get some initiative going. Knight to the centre, bishop takes pawn, rook check. Now I make a fork, rook check, king goes up, bishop goes back, rook c2. His problem, because the bishop's tied to the rook, that restricts him somewhat. Rook goes back, bishop goes back. So I want the escape square for my king. Knight goes back. Oh, very clever. I take the knight. No. Okay, so this position. If I take the knight, you can pin me with my rook. No good at all. So I didn't do that, so instead I move my knight to the centre, threatening this pawn here because this pawn is in a pin. The rook pins the pawn to the king. Okay, so he's not going to... So he's going to do something about this pawn. Gave me a check. Out of check. Defends the pawn. Bishop goes back, hitting the A pawn. Rook attacks knight. Knight retreats. Knight goes back. So finally I win the pawn. Still difficult though, because he's got some counterplay on my king side, especially this pawn here. King goes back. Rook goes back. Bishop. Knight hits the rook. Rook goes back. Rook check. King moves to safety. Knight blocks. I took it. Thought my knight was going to be better than the bishop here. Rook to the 7th rank. Bishop moves. Knight moves. So if I can utilise the white's play on the king side, I've got this outside pass pawn. Rook moves. Knight goes in. Rook goes down. So I'm hitting the pawn on h4. On g2, sorry. And I'm also threatening this pawn here. So he blocks with the bishop. And now it's time to run with my passed pawn. Now his pieces are not well placed for counterattack. King moves off the line of the black rook. Pawn advances. Pawn goes up. Protects the pawn. King moves forward. Knight takes pawn. Pawn push. Rook moves across. King moves. Knight goes back. Check. King there. Rook there. Pawn push. Bishop takes pawn. Pawn push. Pawn on the 7th rank. Now I've won 2 pawns and I've beaten off the counter-attack on the king side, and now he's in a bit of trouble. Look behind the pawn. Knight takes pawn. King attacks. Knight moves across. Rook check. King up. Rook check. King up. Rook check. King up. Bishop hits the pawn. Pawn up. Bishop. Pawn to g4. Probably turns out that pawn to f4 was stronger. A stronger move. Okay, so pawn to g4. I thought this had to be winning with the 3 extra pawns. Look, it's knight. Knight moves. He takes a pawn, but that allows me to swap the bishop for knight. He's got to now he resigned. He can put the rook behind the pass pawn, what's going to happen is my king will win this. My king will just, well, I can defend the pawn first, and now my king will run over to here, hit the rook, and eventually move up. Eventually I'll control the queenie square and win the game. Okay, so that was it. It mightn't have looked like there, but some of those positions were very complicated and required hours of analysis. And thank you for watching.